Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
It's got Star Trek. Episode 54, Discovery, Season 3, Episode 8, The Sanctuary.
Burning the midnight oil.
Yeah, just wrapping up. There's nothing more to do until their algorithm finishes.
No. Let them sleep. At that age, whatever they can get is golden.
Gray, stop speaking to them.
Ouch.
Yeah. But even so, their work has been nothing short of stellar. They're really something.
You're also awake.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm gonna sleep like this. My back kills.
Well, you've got to take better care of yourself.
No need to fuss over them, Hugh. They're not a child.
Technically, they are a child.
Are we done for today?
We are.
Okay. Later, gents.
Good night.
Pride. It suits you.
Is that your professional opinion?
Board certified.
Does she listen to crochet podcasts?
No.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right. I mean, that's as good a point as any to start the episode. So, welcome, everyone. Welcome to what's this place called, Dan?
Don't shoot the food. Elf shot the food. This place is called It's Got Star Trek Podcast.
Gauntlet. It's got Gauntlet.
I'm not familiar with that reference.
Oh, which reference?
I feel left out.
Of the It's Got Star Trek Podcast?
No, I'm very familiar with that reference. I'm the one about the elf.
Oh, that was, yeah, Jesse got it.
Is it a gauntlet?
Gauntlet.
I played Gauntlet, but I don't remember that.
Yeah, because they were always talking about don't shoot the food.
Man, I'm a total piece
You
of
played
shit.
it the right way, where you don't shoot the food.
Maybe that was correct.
Elf shot the food.
In Oregon Trail, I always, I tried to shoot the food.
And then every time you start the game, there's a guy that goes, welcome. And there's this sound that's like, vroom.
In Gauntlet.
Yeah.
Right. I'll have to go back and
The
check
sound
out
effects
Gauntlet.
were very atmospheric.
They were ahead of their time.
It just had, they were just solid sound effects. They didn't blanket the whole thing. They were sparse, but they were well done, I thought.
How do you think that compares to Star Trek?
Star Trek generally has a blanketed soundtrack like many shows and movies do. So in that way, they're not comparable.
All right. Good. All right.
A better dialogue.
Yeah.
Star Trek has better dialogue.
Yeah.
Well, so we've gotten most of the way through the intro. So welcome to the It's Got Star Trek podcast. Which episode is this, Jesse?
I have to go back to my notes now. Shit. You caught me when I was walking around the house.
It's 54. Jesse,
it's episode 54. Yeah.
It's episode 54, and Jesse is joining us remotely. He's on a secret mission, so he's joining us remotely.
This is our first Zoom podcast.
It's our first Zoom podcast.
I mean, me and Patrick are next to each other because we're cool like that.
Yeah.
But you're still zooming.
Yeah, but we're still zooming, so bear with us.
Zooming.
And
bear with us.
Like I was saying, I want to look at my notes, but I keep feeling tempted to go back and look at Jesse's face and Patrick's face and my face.
Just enjoying the faces.
Yeah, because
I'm just looking at my kitchen right now.
Yeah, well, this is working from home. I mean, you are now working from home.
Totes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you're feeling the vibe like a huge proportion of the world right now.
I think this is gonna work. I think if I have my notes on one half of the screen and the Zoom on the right half, I think this is totally gonna work. I can still look at everything just fine. This is great. Now I can look at notes and you guys at the same time.
This is great.
This is great.
I really enjoy sincere enthusiasm about things working out.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, anyway, so welcome to this strange new world that we're in. Jesse on secret assignment, Zoom calls, video chat style as if we were in sort of 80s era Star Trek. I mean, I know they had it back in TOS days, but Zoom has like an 80s style, 80s, 90s Trek feel, I think, right? Because, Discovery's got a lot of the holograms and programmable matter
Yeah,
stuff going on.
I didn't realize. So when they were doing the holograms with the dudes with the masks that were fighting with Earth, you know, and they had the programmable matter in the background, like the metal pin things and all surrounding them, I was like, why would they project those pins around them along with their face? They weren't projecting them. The image of the face they were talking to was being created on the fly by programmable matter.
Programmable matter.
And this happened again in this episode where it's like, I mean, it also was done to look cool, I'm sure. But I bet if you went up, you could touch it. You could touch him. Because like when her Osyra's face came up, it wasn't like on screen or a holodeck or whatever. A hologram. It was actual matter. That's why there was all these goobly to the side, because it was just matter. It wasn't like a projection of matter. You know what I'm saying?
930 years into the future.
Yeah. A medical advancement. They still need fancy equipment to deconstruct Georgiou.
Yeah, there were a lot of good lines in this episode.
She was being unreasonably mean.
Georgiou is always unreasonably mean.
She was like a caged animal. She's like a cat that attacked. Okay, so I had this. Well, I lived in that house, and this girl Beth had this cat, Walnut. And Walnut once got trapped. We were in the basement. You know how basements have those well windows that you know, and so they tend to like sort of fold out. You know, they sort of pivot out.
A typical East Coast Mid-Atlantic basement.
Thank you. And Walnut got stuck in there. And so I was like in there trying to help her get out. And she was just freaking out, totally clawing at me, making all this noise. And I finally got pissed off. I was like, all right, you're going to figure this one out on your own because I'm just trying to help you. And you're just trying to fuck me up.
And she phased into another dimension.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
you never heard the end of it, I bet.
Never heard the end of it.
That cat was trouble.
That cat was trouble.
That cat being trouble.
Yeah, it was one of them crazy calico tortoiseshell things. But point being is that's what Georgiou was being like in this episode. She's just like, he's trying to help her, and she just said stuff like, I want to kill your babies and shit, you know? Like, was that really necessary?
It's like, how's he going to get any babies?
Why? Now, is it just a reflexive part of her that's assuming that people are trying to find weakness to take her out? Like, she knows he's not really trying to take her out, but part of her is so programmed to think he's trying to take her out that she doesn't know any other way to react. I know part of it is just a defense mechanism because she doesn't want to show weakness, but there's other ways to not show weakness other than to say, like, I want to hang your head on the wall or something.
I have a question because it's unclear to me from your reaction whether or not the issue you have is with the character or with the writing. Or both.
That's a good question. That's a good question. Because, I mean, I think the writing was a little over the top with her, but it's just...
Isn't it kind of always, though, with Georgiou? Isn't that sort of the gag with her, is that she's a bit of a caricature?
Yeah.
Possibly as a self-defense mechanism?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's all snappy lines.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine.
I mean, she was even kind of goofing on that in the... You know, she was like, I'll give you a snappy comment and a withering glance or something.
But Culber was straight up like, no, you're terrified. I can tell. Like, so you can quit with this business. It's not working on me.
I mean, there's a difference, though, between acting tough and then threatening the person who's trying to help you. And so that's kind of like the line we're crossing here.
But the key to a threat is forget about even intent. It's about how it's received, right? And if a threat is received and is just not taken seriously, then it's not taken seriously, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rightly or wrongly. But I think Culber doesn't at any point think, and maybe he's wrong, but he doesn't at any point think that Georgiou's just going to murder him. Granted, given his prior experience, maybe he should be a little bit more concerned about that, especially when he's hanging around sickbay alone with a strange patient.
Yeah. I think though she did get under his skin a little when she made the children comment, and he was either just talking back, just saying, putting her in his place. He's like, I wish I could have children, but it sounded like she got under his skin a little. So she was just trying to get under his skin.
I think it was less. I could see that. I think it was less getting under his skin and more him just being just annoyed. He's like, I'm fucking trying to help you. Right. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Come on, lady.
Come on.
We get it. You're strong and you're awesome. All right, we get it. You can quit with this threatening. I mean, I did like the comeback, though. You know, she said, if you had children, I would poison them. And he was like, if I had time, I would, what was it? If I had time, I would have children.
Yeah, right.
Which was pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, when she made the medical advancement comment, you said it's 930 years of medical advancement. You still need fancy equipment. It's like, well, yeah, that's what advancement is. I mean, what is she?
That's a good point.
Is she thinking that everyone like became enlightened and suddenly does all this stuff spiritually? Is that what medical advancement is? I mean, of course they're using gadgets. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's a good point you make actually, because I think it does help illustrate the fact that Georgiou, just like the rest of the crew, is a person out of time. And no matter how bright or brilliant or ruthless she is, she's at somewhat of a disadvantage because she just doesn't know all the things. She's not aware of all the things. It's the same problem that Discovery has, or at least should have. I guess they've been doing training and stuff like that. But one has to presume just logically you're going to be somewhat disadvantaged compared to if you were in your own environment. I mean, I guess you could argue against that, but
yeah. Well, she did calm down a little bit back when she came back a couple scenes later, and Dr. Pollard was there, and she was talking about being dressed like a human spermatozoan. Mm-hmm. But she, at that point, you could tell she was just being tough, but she was joking at that point. But then, of course, when they put her under, what was it? It was they put her under and did a bunch of readings on her, and it was what was going on? It was an aneurysm or something. It was like a something. It was after it was seen with Tarek/Book. They was cut back to Georgiou. She was going into encephalographic. They said that her encephalographic readings were peaking. She's having an episode. She's in danger of
like that.
She's in danger of having a cerebral hemorrhage, and they were 83% into the atomic scan. And then she freaked out, and I'm guessing she broke that scan. They didn't really... I guess they completed the scan. I don't know. They weren't clear on that. I think they did complete the scan because they did have the data on her. But then at that point, that's when she went back. She had already calmed down prior and, was joking with him. But then when she super freaked out and had a moment that was too close to reality, that's when she went back to I was having a beautiful dream about how your head would look on my wall to Culber. So... And she is like a cornered cat or something like that,
And she comes from a culture where presumably you have to keep all these secrets and maintain a number of lies and all this other stuff to get by. One would presume she might have figured out that's not always going to be as effective. But I do believe her philosophy is that she's in a universe of sheep, and she's got to keep her edge in order to whatever her ultimate plans are. It's not entirely clear.
Yeah, she might just be panicking, and she doesn't know how to respond.
Clearly, something's happening. I know we had previously theorized maybe she's feeling guilty, or maybe it has something to do with, traveling through. Well, I don't know about time, but certainly through the dimension. She crossed dimensions, and then she traveled through time, and maybe that's shady or something.
It was getting all blurry. There.
Yeah, that was the weird thing. Her molecules were going all weird, and I couldn't tell if that was. It seemed that was let me know what you think. Was that a physical thing, or because at first one time I was like, oh, maybe that's just the imaging thing is going crazy, but then I thought, no, it looks like her face is going weird.
That's what it seemed like because everybody sort of had that reaction.
They did have that reaction. I was like, oh my God, what the hell is going on here?
Do they talk about San? Is San just going to be Burnham or whatever? Or is it someone? We still don't know who this San person is she screams out.
Well, that's what's peculiar about it because it's not clear whether her issue is a sci-fi issue or a psychological issue or a combination.
Culber said the root of Georgiou's sickness could be physiological, psychological, temporal, or interdimensional.
And probably it's all four of those, right?
Yeah.
And there's evidence. I mean, that whole face thing going crazy suggests that there's at least some sci-fi element to it, but
that's a temporal or dimensional issue right there.
But or a combination, and then with the flashbacks,
spatial temporal.
You got to think you're like, well, why is she remembering that?
Space tempora.
Is that what exactly is going on there? So hopefully we find out more about that next week. I think that's the case, but we'll find out. And if you're listening to this podcast hundreds of years into the future,
make sure
you'll be able to just play the next one and find out. You don't even need to watch the episodes. The episodes will be long lost. You'll have to piece together Star Trek from listening to Star Trek podcasts.
By that time, you also know that in order to travel back in time, you just have to like fly around the Earth in the opposite direction or push it in the opposite direction.
Yeah,
or something.
Superman style.
So you can go back in time and give us a letter, and then we can say hi to you. We can give a shout out to you in the future. So that's just a little Easter egg for those future people out there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, all you present people, just
watch out for the time police.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Well, was there anything else about Georgiou? Because I get we can approach this story.
Georgiou.
It's a great story, by the way. I really enjoyed this episode. But there's these kind of discrete chunks to it, which are kind of awesome. The Georgiou was one of the smaller chunks, but an important one. A character who's been with us for a while.
Georgiou chunk.
And it's just we're curious to see where things go with her.
Well, so I guess there's the Georgiou. Oh yeah, and she got the security encryption authorization code to find out that some fucked up shit's going on with her. Yeah, that's basically all that kind of happened. Yeah, what was the code was QLR 854548, and she plugged that in and was able to get all.
You know it best.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel a little bit oppressed is a strong word. I'll say that. Oppressed is a very strong word, but I painted myself in this corner now where every time there's a series of letters or numbers, even if it's like hidden on screen on some background monitor, I feel compelled, like it's now my responsibility. Like you guys are expecting this from me to record this, and if I don't do it, I'll be letting you all down.
Okay. You do understand. You do not need to do that.
But I'll be letting you down.
Dan, give us the registration number on that ship that just went past.
You will not be letting us down. I think you would be letting us down if there were a plot-specific specific number that, for example, when we have the other chunk of the story, which is Stamets, Adira, and Tilly working on and Saru working on decoding the sounds coming out of the nebula.
Yeah,
right?
that was a classic sort of sci-fi sort of let's figure this out.
Super sci-fi, right? Now in that case,
it's a Starfleet distress call.
They use technology, sound canceling technology to figure out to cancel the sound of the distortion.
And Saru's wicked, sexy, deep ear channels.
Yeah, and for some reason, and his eyes went a little whack too, like as if they triggered something in his eyes. It's like all his senses got triggered suddenly. So, but I wasn't super clear on that whole progress.
It's always a distress call at the middle of any kind of mysterious thing. It's always like,
and the theories abound about what that distress call might be.
Yeah. Does anyone say that it's like that ship is Discovery or something?
Yes.
Yeah, that's had to be thrown out there.
Which is related to that Calypso. The Calypso short trek, which again, we know a lot of people haven't gotten to see. But that's one suggestion, is that it might be related to that story. Which again, I don't want to give spoilers to that particular story. Spoilers! Spoilers from the Nebula! Welcome to Spoilers from the Nebula!
Well, that's a pretty cool show you got there.
Yeah, you fly into the nebula, spoilers abound.
So there was the music.
Anything to make Jesse laugh pleases me.
Yeah, me too.
Audience of one.
When they were, so there was that tune that Gray was playing, Gray was playing, and then the Barzons or whatever were singing, and this tune originates from the center of the burn. And but then there was also distortion. See, I was getting a little confused on this
too
part.
Was confused by this part
because I get what they were getting at, where it's like, okay, you're gonna model the distortion and get rid of it. I got that because it's like I said, is noise cancel. This is what they do for noise canceling headphones, basically, right? But at the same time, what was the distortion? Was the distortion something separate from the tune? And then I wasn't like, why was the tune mixed in with the starship distress signal? Why were they all mixed together? Was the tune the distortion, or was the distortion just random distortion? It seemed like they were putting two things together.
Something that I was also confused by. I haven't parsed it out completely, so I do look forward to people out there in the world, in the audience, write in and let us know. Feedback at itsgotstartrek.com or at itsgotstartrek.com on Twitter. But I am curious to hear from folks about what their thoughts are about this. Granted, I'm sure it'll be explained soon enough. But what I have been able to parse out is this. Step one, there's the nebula lots of radio waves coming out of it, like normal, right? One would expect celestial bodies.
The lowest known frequency traveling through the nebula.
But before that, I'm going through a series of overly exaggerated discrete steps.
Gotcha.
So
I support it.
The first step was radio waves coming out of nebula, but noisy and magnetic distortions, right?
Just like blah 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 blah.
Osyraa uses their skills to clean it up a little bit, and so the whole noises coming out, the whole nebula vibe is the music, right? So they're like, all right, it's music's coming out of there, right? When they're explaining this to Saru, gets his funny, acid eyeballs, LSD eyeballs, and then you see his glistening ear channels. Mm-hmm. And he seems to have heard something specific. So in addition to everyone's hearing the music, and then he's hearing something that catches his mind brain. And so then he asks them to find that lower frequency. And then when they suss that out and clean it up a bit, that's when they hear the Starfleet Federation distress call. Now that doesn't tie up all the loose ends, but that's what I think we know.
So yeah, the frequency was coming from a nearby neutron star at 5.75 kilohertz.
They should ask Officer Kenneth about
what?
They should ask Officer Kenneth.
No, I heard you, but I was doing the what? Like,
yeah,
what are you
Jesse's got
about?
it. They got to ask like when you're.
What is going on right now? What's happening? What's happening? And why does Jesse get it?
Okay, when frequency.
Oh my gosh!
When you gotta figure out about frequencies, there's only one person you can go to. There's only one man. There was only one man who would dare understand and be able to analyze the frequencies.
Lone Star.
No, Officer Kenneth.
Who's what? What are you talking about?
Officer Kenneth. You're like, I got a frequency. I got to figure out the frequency.
Oh, what's the frequency, Kenneth?
Yes, Officer Kenneth. Officer Kenneth will have the answer for you.
What's the frequency, Kenneth?
I apologize sincerely for lunching out right there.
That was weird, man.
It was uncalled for and borderline unprofessional. But since we're in the entertainment business, if it was entertaining, then it was professional. So. That's my excuse. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, wow. No, that was worth it.
You sound so sincere.
It is. It was anomalous. Star Trek all about.
Why does Jesse get it?
So yeah, it was traveling through the nebula, the radio wave JAG 380725A.
That's what it was. It was the number.
It was the number.
The number.
And it's coming from a nearby neutron star at 5.75 kilohertz.
I think those are the kind of numbers that we would rely on you to get. But you don't gotta get all those. You don't gotta get all those like little rinky dink.
See, now we get into a subjective field of like, what if you're like, of course we would have wanted that number, Dan, and I'm like, I didn't know you wanted that number.
First of all, I think you're fairly confident that that's not how we would react if you did not bring up a long string of numbers on the podcast. Second, I think there is an art to it, right? Because if it's a short enough number and might be of some curiosity, particularly to, we are Star Trek nerds, right? We feed on tidbits like numbers and combinations of words that are curious and funny alien names and shit like that, right? So
tidbits.
If the number is small enough, then it's appropriate for you to consider remembering it, and if it's related to the plot somehow. If it's of a medium length, probably it's not worth it because it's just you're going to be reading a long number, right? Now, but if it's a hilariously long number,
it's like the Three Bears.
Then you got to do it. Then you got to bring it. You got to bring the hilarious. Like if we're talking Commander Data mimicking Picard's authorization code when in data lore, when he gets activated by Dr. Soong with the homing beacon and he has to take over the Enterprise, he has to steal the Enterprise in order to get back home, and he mimics Picard's whole authorization thing, you know, it goes on forever and it's like alpha, beta, blah, 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 blah. See, I don't know it. I don't know it because there wasn't a Dan Glaubitz back in time, back in the 80s when that was going on. We needed people like you back then and you weren't there.
Yeah, well, the technology just wasn't there yet.
Yeah, that's true.
So
you remember when Wesley made that machine that imitated Captain Picard? He didn't have those numbers either, so he couldn't do it like that.
He made a Captain Picard imitating machine?
Yeah, it was like the second episode or something.
Wow. So what we've decided is that part of this nebula situation, there is a distortion, there is a tune, and then there's a distress signal, and they are three different entities.
Yeah, well, yeah. I would say is the tune and the distress signal seem to be separate, but they might be related. Maybe the distress signal.
But then why were they getting rid of the distress signal?
They weren't.
I'm sorry. Why were they getting rid of the distortion? Sorry.
Well, so they could hear the other stuff.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is there's three
I got you.
interacting elements here.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so the distress signal was just some goobly goops, and the tune was the tune, and then the distress, and then.
But why are they all intertwined?
I'm sorry. The distortion was just incidental. The distortion was just kind of like
incidental distortion sounds like a lovely low key sort of heavy metal group.
Yeah. Kind of.
Sort of like the kind you would have playing in a hotel lobby.
So the distortion was just incidental. It was just there, and they had to get rid of it. And then the distress signal was just like, that was one part of the plot. And then the third element was the tune, which is another part. But we don't know exactly how the distress signal and the tune, what they have to do with each other.
We do not.
And everybody knows this tune.
And that's the weird thing. That's the Battlestar Galactica style thing where it's like, it's just inserted itself into cultures and things.
Maybe the tune is the distress message. Like they're saying it has to have a message in there.
I can't. Right. I don't remember if I mentioned this last week, but I think I came across some theory on the internet that suggested maybe something about the tune. There were a couple things I saw that were interesting, and one was that the tune. It's like music is a series of wavelength modulations, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe that had something to do with the dilithium crystals are a crystal and they could be affected by modulation somehow. And so maybe the tune is either causing the problem or can solve the problem.
Or it's like a message that, like you said, solve the problem. Like maybe it's a message.
Another theory I heard.
So they went back in time. So Burnham or someone found like the answer, then they went back in time to the middle of the nebula and sent out this tune as a warning to everyone to be like, hey, this tune is the shit. But then like
this tune is the shit.
This tune is the shit. But then
everyone just chill out. Just listen to this tune. You don't need to be fighting.
But is it going to be one of those things where they were trying to prevent stuff from happening, but it's the tune that caused the burn, so they actually, or is it going to? Are they going to fold it in on themselves?
I would presume they would not be so simplistic as to do that.
Yeah.
That's the kind of plot that was sophisticated in 1994, thereabouts.
Yeah.
We'll see. The other theory that I did hear that I thought was interesting, and again, absolutely no spoilers here. This is just some stuff people have tossed around online, just putting the pieces together, is that we know that the Federation and other people were having problems with dilithium. Dilithium was running out. And that's, when the burn happened, that just kind of like, was a result possibly of some experiments related to help getting new ways to travel without dilithium or to get dilithium. We don't know exactly, right? So one of the theories is that the Federation or some party decided to start going into the mirror universe to steal their dilithium. So to basically like mine dilithium by going to a different universe. And that's possible because we do have people who are interested in the mirror universe, right? So
and that's how they know how far away it is, or like how it's harder to get to.
David Cronenberg is super interested, and it's like no shit. There's all this crazy shit happened with like Kirk and Archer, and Captain Sisko was having sex with Dax weirdly in this super now slightly problematic situation.
And
in the
Kira was like all dominatrix.
Kira was cool. She was pretty awesome.
But no, I'm in the alternate universe.
I know. But yeah, anyway, it's an interesting idea to think like, well, we're running out of dilithium. Let's just go steal it from those assholes in that universe. We don't even like them. But the idea being that if the dilithium is from another universe, maybe it's not happy being in this universe, and that's what led it to all explode at the same time. And maybe that's the deal with Georgiou or whatever. Like maybe when you cross those universes, there's some constraints.
Maybe each universe has its own harmonic frequency or something.
Yeah.
And, like the dilithium like sends out, and when the dilithium sends out the wrong tune, it destroys the universe.
Within the Star Trek world, that would be feasible. So I wish I could remember who it was to give credit to, but it was some deeply nested comment on Reddit or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or Parler. I don't know.
So Stamets, he sure was cavalier about volunteering Adira's services. He was just like, yeah, they can do it. No problem.
He's proud of her.
It'll just happen. They'll do it in a couple hours. Yeah, but out of principle, I think if I was Adira, I'd probably be like, hey man, you might want to talk to me before you start telling them how quickly I can do things.
Yeah, I would. I kind of want to ask, like, how long do you think it'll take? Picard always asked Data how long it would take, and then he would get aggravated when Data gave him too accurate an answer.
Yeah, that's enough data. Well, and that's actually because you could tell that Adira was looking annoyed, or at least there was something on their mind. And at first I thought that they were going to get annoyed at Stamets for just doing that, but it turns out this is the reveal where Adira wants to be addressed by the they pronoun. So, which was the thing about when it first happened is, and I don't know if you called that or if it was like just a common sort of like something you read somewhere, or I don't know, because I remember when Adira first came and was a non-binary character, but everyone was still referring to them as her. And then I remember you being like, well,
I read it. I read that the actors said that the character was going to, set everyone straight.
Oh, okay, got it. So it was written down.
Yeah,
okay.
There was confusion about that because when the casting was happening, everyone was very excited because the character of Adira was cited as being a non-binary character, which was great. So I think there was just a little confusion at the beginning of the season because people were expecting that, and when Adira was introduced, they weren't using the neutral pronouns, right? So there was a little bit of confusion there. And then we read in the articles that the actor did mention that. I'm still going back and forth a little bit about it. I think my preference may have been to, or maybe not preference is the right word, but my expectation was that maybe they were calling Adira her, and then she would correct them, and they would be like, okay, cool. And it would be treated as if it was no big deal, as if it was a perfectly normal conversation people would have, and in the future, this is not even an issue. And I still feel that I might have preferred that in some ways from sort of a moral and hopefulness perspective, because I'd like to think it's not an issue in the future.
Oh, do you think they put too much sort of emphasis on how it's progressive or something?
No, I don't think that. I mean, people might make that criticism. I think what it was there was a balance.
Well, I don't mean like the fact that they refer to Adira as they is trying to be too progressive. I wouldn't say that, but I'm saying the way they approach the reveal.
No, that's exactly what I'm talking about, is that the balance was between either presenting a character like this as 100% normal, accepted internally, at peace, no conflicts whatsoever, because there's a benefit to that sort of representation of this is a normal thing that people don't even talk about because it's literally not an issue, because who the fuck cares? It's not a big deal. On the other hand, what we end up getting, of course, are these beautiful scenes with Adira and Stamets. Like amazing, beautiful scenes. First, the scene where she shows the strength to come out effectively, to her boss, and deepen the connection that they've been developing. And then the later scene where they're playing piano, Adira's playing cello and Stamets is playing piano. And
just like hitting a couple of chords.
Yeah. And
it's like, G minor. It's easy.
From a dramatic perspective, I understand why they did that, because those scenes were wonderful. They were really great. They were touching and interesting. I think they were important scenes just in terms of representation. The type of representation you see going on the screen there. So I understand why they did it, and I think it worked out well in the end. But I guess part of the back of my head was still thinking like old school, like maybe TOS TNG style, was like in TNG when they had the guy just wearing the I forget what the nickname for that Starfleet uniform that's like a skirt. but there was a man wearing it.
Yeah,
which
right.
I
That was
believe
like the first or second season,
and it was an
Here's the
accident.
background.
Like I think it was apparently like an accident. Like they ran out of uniforms or something, or some.
Wait, so
goof up.
that wasn't even attempted to be
I don't know.
So okay, here's the thing: is if it's some attempt to if it's an attempt to sort of make things seem like, oh, it doesn't matter what people wear, I get it, but if you're coming from the perspective of like, oh, we're out of uniforms, we're out of wardrobe here, just throw this on him. It's got a skirt, no one will notice. It's like at that point you kind of have to be making a statement, or else it's like lazy wardrobe.
Well, that's the thing is I don't know 100% if that fact is a fact or a factoid. But either way, ultimately, it's the representation that matters, right? And even if it's by accident or if it's incidental, right? So, for example, on the original Star Trek, you have Uhura, who is a black woman. She's an officer on the bridge crew of this giant, awesome warship, basically. I know it's a science ship, but like the equivalent of being on a, like a Navy destroyer, maybe even an aircraft carrier, right? Important job.
It's a heavy cruiser.
Yeah, or heavy cruiser. Yeah, heavy cruiser. You're right.
Heavy cruisers, all about heavy cruisers.
Totally a heavy
They'll fuck
cruiser.
you up.
And so you could totally argue that her role was often diminished and overshadowed, and that Uhura did not get the representation that certainly she would have deserved, and especially early on. On the other hand, nevertheless, incidentally, it was a black woman on TV sharing the screen with all these men, predominantly white male actors, right? So there's still a benefit, even if it's incidental, even if it's accidental, but it's even better when you have the producers of Discovery going out of their way to create an incredibly diverse set of characters and doing I think really in this season in particular, Discovery's always done this to some extent, but this season in particular has just been wonderful because it makes the stories more interesting. It makes the world more vibrant. And with luck, it can help in some small way make the real world a little bit better too, just by getting people used to seeing these types of interactions and just not thinking of them as in any way abnormal.
Well, I mean, maybe there was just some kind of compromise made where they were saying, oh, well, someone might have been saying, oh, well, we should make it like it's no big deal. The fact that Osyraa wants to be called they, it's like, why make any kind of deal about it at all? And then I guess the other side of it would be, it's like, well, we still live in where we are today. And so this is an opportunity
absolutely
to send that message because there is a reality we currently live in. So as far as which way they should have gone, yeah, who knows? But like that must have been sort of like, I would imagine that was the thought process.
And we do get a little of both in this episode, in that my favorite scene of the episode, despite all the awesome story points and action, which I thought was pretty cool, we can get to in a moment, how it moved the plot forward in certain ways. We learned more about Book, all this other good stuff. My favorite scene was the one where Osyraa was asleep at their console, and Culber comes in, and Culber and Stamets are using Osyra's preferred pronouns, even though they think they're asleep, which means they have, by default, the respect to use the pronouns that a person prefers, whether or not it's not performative. They're not doing it for Osyraa. They're doing it because that's Osyraa asked for that. And that was real subtle, but really awesome. And then, of course, it was just a well-acted scene. It was sweet and cute in so many ways. Culber, I really like when we see Culber and Stamets together, because we don't always get to see them together a lot. This season's been really good because there hasn't been as much drama, right? It was upsetting when there was, the story was driven by conflict between them, right? And now it's the opposite. Now they're supporting each other as characters. It's really, really nice.
Yeah, I like the whole dynamic of even, all three of them, Culber, Stamets, and Osyraa. Sort of, because they all have, there's each relationship is its own organism, right? You have Stamets and Culber, Stamets and Osyraa, but then there's not really a Culber in Osyraa at this point. That hasn't really been established, but there is a Culber, Stamets, Osyraa kind of.
It's getting close to like a parent-child situation.
Right.
Culber talked about how proud Stamets was, and that there was clearly a look that Stamets doesn't have on his face very often.
Yeah, it's really fascinating that it's interesting that they're going in that direction with Stamets, you know, and how they introduced him, and then right, it has this character that totally breaks through his rough, sort of angry at times exterior. Because like even with Tilly, you know, last episode when she was talking about becoming the commander, he had that moment where the first officer.
Just because people will yell at us.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
There was the part where Stamets was coming back out and being that Stametsy kind of like, oh, that'd be really weird actually. Even though he didn't mean any malice by it, he had that sort of like kind of like Stametsy sort of I don't want to say sass, but you know what I mean.
No, I think it's okay. He's got a little bit of Zazu, right? What is it? I don't know.
No,
you're right. The sass isn't the right word because it's more like a kid would be sassy.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know what the word is, but I think you get what I'm saying.
Chutzpah?
Chutzpah.
No, that would be, you know, he's standing up, you know, to somebody when he's the boss.
Persnickety?
He's just an asshole. Maybe sometimes he's just an asshole.
Not persnickety in that instance.
No.
Moxie? No, not Moxie.
No, Moxie is more positive.
The point being that...
Send your adjectives into feedback at itsgotstartrek.com.
Yeah, send ones that you haven't found in the dictionary yet. We really want to hear those. But he doesn't ever get that with Adira. That part of him never sort of comes through. The part of Stamets that's kind of like, you know, got a little bit of this sort of it's smugness.
It is he's a complex character.
Yeah.
You can't describe him with one
right
analogy or one adjective because it is smugness mixed with persnicketyness mixed with a little sass.
Yeah, exactly. And while I don't know how much the writers intended, I still, like, when he was making up with Tilly that one time, when he told Tilly to basically say, like, I know you're trying hard, but you suck, or whatever, you know, because he was mad about something. And then when he came back later at the end of the episode, I think this was this last week or the week before or something, I don't remember. But
eons ago.
He came up to her later and said, you know, like, Tilly, I really want to hear about this new dark matter drive you got working on here. And I had commented that, like, maybe it wasn't intended for this, but it almost sounded like he was patronizing her a little bit, even though he probably wasn't. It was just like, I'd really like you could tell he was going out of his way to try and be.
I think he's like that. There are people like that.
Yeah.
I sometimes fear I'm like this, where you're so locked into a certain personality type that even if you recognize there's a problem and then you aim to fix it, like in this case, I'm going to apologize to Tilly,
right,
and I'm going to make a concerted effort to listen to her idea. That's in his head, but it comes out in Stamets style because he's still Stamets.
Right. And you know he had good intentions with it.
Another example is what you described with Adira when he was suggesting that they could do the algorithm in a couple hours, just volunteering Adira's time, right? It's a similar thing, right?
Right. Yeah.
More positive, but similar.
Yeah, but I feel like there's something about Adira that he doesn't get that sort of smugness around her.
He did the first time. He did the first time meeting Adira.
Yeah, first time, right. But over time, it's
because Adira was up to some shady shit.
Yeah, but over time, Adira's broken through broken into his core and knows what he's about, and he feels like this connection. And
Adira made that funny joke about the crazy kids with their chaos.
Yeah, crazy kids with their chaos. Yeah, that was a
Bluto Barrio is fantastic.
That was a ballsy joke that they made there.
It was.
Now I want to now I'm trying to see if I can crazy kids. Now I'm looking through all my old notes.
Why are you doing that?
Because I want to find crazy kids.
All right. Well, while you are doing that, I think we've covered the bulk of the
well, I'm not in. I lost
Stamets, etc. chunk. You can just scream it out anytime, even though I'm pretty sure I got it close. I got the quote close.
Yeah, you got it close. I gave up. I'm just like, yeah, you got it close enough. Crazy kids with their chaos or something. Yeah.
So another chunk is this whole. It's actually a few sub chunks, I guess.
Sub chunks.
Sub chunks. Tune in Sunday for. What was it? What was the joke I just said? Sub chunks.
Sub chunk.
I need more wine.
Firing in a grid pattern for maximum damage.
Precisely, yes. Osyraa and Book and, so Book and Burnham on the planet is one thing. Saru let's talk about Saru first. Saru dealing with things up in space.
I mean, we can. Do you want to start with the Saru and his comedic sort of trying to find a new?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's just pretty fucking hilarious.
Yeah. So it's execute, hit it, or manifest, and that
manifest.
Yeah. I kind of like that just because it's so absurd. And it's funny when he said execute, it just didn't work for him for some reason. I guess I don't know because they were.
But then later, wasn't it Reese who was like, "Shall I execute?"
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was Reese or one of the other crew.
But
people.
now I realize
he said carry on.
Yeah, carry on.
Carry on.
Carry on. That wasn't even discussed beforehand. But what was he saying before? I don't even remember what he was saying before. He didn't have it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead and do it. You know,
Black alert.
But this is where Saru is kind of reminding me of like Data a little bit. Actually, trying to deliver these lines in this way, and it. Whereas Data would try to, deliver a comedic line and it would come off, stiff or whatever or something. He's trying to deliver this serious line and it's just coming off.
Data is fully functional.
Yeah. Yeah. With the big
so far, he's only said black alert.
So, anyways.
They've only done.
That's right.
Done the score jump.
The point being is he was reminding me a lot of Data in that point in time because he was like being like all unsuccessful. Yeah. Black alert. Yeah, I was looking at the Discovery. There weren't bridges. There used to be bridges between
They took them out
inner
with
and
the
outer
refit.
ring, but they still have the inner and outer ring. I guess they just transport.
And apparently, I don't know. I didn't double check to see if this was true. At least in the last episode, it looked like somebody was walking through one of those, struts, one of those bridges between but after they were removed. So I don't know.
Whoa, that's
whoa,
weird.
crazy. I mean, they have programmable matter, so it doesn't bother me too much. I mean, the Federation Starfleet Command is a bunch of floors and ceilings and shit that just disappear.
They
got detachable nacelles.
Detachable nacelles.
I mean, they actually detach too when the Discovery warped. If you catch it when they warped to not Hunhao. Hunhao what was the name of the Qui-Gon?
I couldn't find it. I couldn't find how it was spelled, so I didn't write it down.
It was Qui-Gon. It's
Qui-Gon.
It's Kwejian, where Kahim is at Qui-Gon or something.
Kahim lives on Kaijin.
Yeah, something like that. I can't believe I don't remember how it's pronounced. But anyways, when they approach...
Dan, I am very disappointed in you.
Yeah, I know. It's like if I hadn't recited a 12-digit number back to you that was listed
if only that
in the
planet
episode.
had a 12-digit number instead of a name.
Yeah,
You
I
would have
know.
remembered it.
I would have been
We'd
on
know.
it. But yeah, when they warped when they warped the ship on there, you could see the nacelles were detaching. It was almost like it was like an afterthought. It's like why'd they even bother to do that? It's like as soon as it came out of the black the black alert and the jump, like
Because they only connect for the jump. That's the deal with Discovery.
right, and they just went like floating away, slowly floating away. And I guess
sexy.
I guess they just follow them around. But yeah. Oh yeah, Tolor
Like a couple of kitty cats.
Tolor dies.
Yeah, I know. That was fucked up, man. I felt he's a piece of shit, but I felt kind of bad for him.
He was like, no, Sarah, no. It was kind of like, it was like that, he's all.
And that trance worm, by the way, not good at transing, because it just, she because Osyraa all like, oh, don't worry.
Yeah.
It's going to trance you. You won't even notice it. He seemed like he noticed.
Yeah, he seemed like he noticed pretty good.
His legs went flying.
Yeah. One of them just ripped apart.
Just came right off.
It did. Yeah, I know. It just came. It did. It just flew right off. That was, it's kind of upsetting. That scene was a little upsetting.
No, it was. I mean, I'm sure it was meant to be upsetting. The design work was great with all the fire and red rusty shit.
Yeah. So why do they want all these? Why does everyone want all these transworms to eat? They mentioned transworm. Book mentioned because he was pointing to the Kahim's chandelier, and he's like, "Oh, is that prices of transworm meat going up?" So I guess people eat them.
Well, they mentioned that in the
do
opening.
they have magical power? They probably have magical powers because of the trancing.
In That Hope Is
The
You.
chandeliers look like the sea locusts.
Hey, all right. We've done our job.
Nice.
We've had our special observation for the day.
Special little observation.
Excellent job, Jesse.
It's a special observation from Jesse.
In That Hope Is You, Part 1.
What? You said some words and I don't understand how to parse them.
All right. We're going to give it another go.
I hope it's you.
In That Hope Is You, Part 1.
In That Hope Is You, Part 1? What?
In That Hope Is You.
Oh, part one. Okay.
In
yes. Okay.
space, quotation mark.
Yes.
That Hope Is You.
Yes.
Close quotation mark. Oh, no.
No,
Open quotation
that's all
mark,
ruined.
comma, Part 1, close quotation mark. At the end, when the whole transform action gets down, they mention one of the Orions. One of the Orions mentions something about they're usually eaten alive or whatever. Don't kill it, kind of thing. They because they had the team of people they were trying to fuck with Bookship, and they were like, don't kill it because they're eaten alive.
Eat them alive. Oh.
Or they're fresh. They're eaten fresh, maybe like a lobster.
Yeah, like a lobster.
Still doesn't sound particularly nice.
So transworm meat is. I wonder if they extract the transness from them and use them for pharmaceuticals or something. Maybe it's like a drug on the black market.
I think it's a clever idea.
Transworm trans. It's like LSD or something, right?
It's like LSD.
LSD.
You got your LSD, you got your psilocybins, and then you got your transworms.
So transworms.
Roll up that transworm and smoke it.
Speaking of worms, that Linus is really in it again this time, isn't he?
Yeah, the peeling skin.
Yeah, it was gross.
And they doubled back on that. It was already gross because it was just a mention of him.
Yeah.
And then they show him and he's scratching his face and his face is all peeling a little bit. And then there's the little boy joke where Burnham says...
Leto.
That,
well, they had to make
Leto?
him leave the mess hall because he
Leto.
shed all over everybody.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Linus. You got to know better than that. And then go to the mess hall with all your shedding skin. That's kind of...
Did Tilly like brushed some flakes off.
Yes, she did.
That's an uncomfortable conversation you have to have with an employee as a manager, I imagine. It's like you're shedding, you got dandruff.
Your skin is sloughing off in the cafeteria.
This is not okay. That's worse than having to tell someone to wear deodorant or something.
Everyone's eating Federation standard nachos.
You could tell that they were uncomfortable talking about it because he was like, "What about Linus?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Linus.
It was funny.
The Linus matter.
But then, Leto, and she was, they were going to peel off his face, Leto and Burnham.
You got to peel off.
Because she was like, you want to do something awesome or something?
So, getting back to the Saru Osyraa business, right? So, Osyraa, we start out the episode, they had 3 different scenes in the teaser, and the last one is with Osyraa killing Tolar and then warping away. And as we guess, and is confirmed, they are warping to where Saru and the Discovery Arc they're trying to capture the Rin, the Andorian. I wasn't clear if Osyraa wanted Book as well, or if her main interest was in Book was that she knew that he had Rin. I'm guessing it's just focused mostly on Rin.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a good question though, because that was
because Rin said Rin's piece of knowledge is that he knows that the Orion Syndicate, or I mean at least the Emerald Chain.
The Emerald Chain.
It wasn't
that
clear
low on dilithium.
if it was all the Orion Andorians, but the Emerald Chain is low on dilithium, so it seemed like he's her main target.
Yeah, so I mean, Book's brother had to go after him, and so right. So why did she want him specifically? But yeah, I mean, probably for narrative purposes, so Book and Kahim can have a scene together and a few scenes together and make up their deal. And also, I guess it's just a way to get to Rin. The Federation tried to pull a couple moves that Osyraa just wasn't buying. Like, first of all, Saru was like, yes, we'll just go there as observational mission. We'll just be observational. And so it was like, what are you going to tell him? You're going to tell Osyraa? It's like, yeah, we're just here for observation. She's like, that's bullshit. You guys are full of shit. I know what you're doing. You're not going to play lawyer ball with me. I know what's happening. This is the advantage of not being part of the Federation, having the Federation not able to fuck me up if they really need to. I have power over the Federation. Maybe if the Federation controlled everything in the area, I would be like, fine, I don't want to lose all my materials and cool things that the Federation supplies for me. But now you'd say oh, okay, yeah, so we're here for observations. That's bullshit. And then when Tilly's whole plan, which was successful, but the reasoning completely failed, which was, it's like, oh, well, the Federation ship can't attack the Viridium, but what if it's a non-Federation ship from a rogue pilot? And now once again, Osyraa was like, I know what you're doing. You're full of shit.
That ship came out of your shuttle bay. Come on.
Right.
You didn't stop that ship.
Right. You're not going to say well, technically it wasn't a Federation ship. It's I don't care. Like I said, maybe if the Federation had any clout, I might play diplomat, but I don't need to play diplomat with the Federation. And so neither of those plans really panned out.
Well, and it's an interesting thing because Osyraa, we are introduced to her as being an aggressive character. She's an aggressive character in her dealings with Saru. But then at the end, we find out that, yes, she has a history of being an aggressive character, but on top of that is this lack of dilithium, which is driving a certain amount of desperation. They want to keep it secret because they know that that's a weakness and that the Federation could take advantage of that.
Saruman, keep it secret? Is it secret?
Is it safe?
Saruman.
Saruman. Anyway.
You were saying Saru and then is it secret?
Quite cool.
Sorry, I derailed that.
Quite cool. Yeah, but so the Osyraa's character first run through is aggressive, a little bit, stereotypical villain, just like I'm aggressively violent and aggressively mean. I killed my brother. I killed my nephew.
I'll raise this nephew and then kill him for
all sorts of
competent.
And but then the next time through, none of that goes away. But there's an added dimension to her character in that that she's making all these moves with the sort of Damocles over her head, or whatever a more appropriate classical analogy would be. In that she knows that the dilithium's running out and they're going to be fucked if they don't find out some way to get more dilithium. And apparently their existing plan is not working, of just going and fucking up people, different planets and stuff, right? That's not sufficient. But mucking about, as Admiral Vance mentioned,
their mob tactics.
Yeah, they're going around and just doing, wanton first contact, right? Just fucking shit up because they don't care. And the Federation's no longer in a position to protect them. But that does raise an interesting sort of side question, made me think about it, which was, Vance is talking about how we don't have the resources, effectively, is what he was saying, to protect all these uncontacted worlds like we used to be able to do, right? So we can think of worlds like Mintaka 3, for example, with the proto-Vulcans, right? Where we can't stop the damage of people coming down and just interacting with these folks, right? It makes you think...
Is that the Watchers? Who
watches the Watchers? So you can think about... Starfleet knows all these planets exist, even in the time of TNG or TOS, but they're uncontacted peoples. They don't have warp drive. They're pre-warp. And so Starfleet takes it upon itself to sort of protect the worlds that are under its sphere of influence that fit that category and let them develop along their own rate, right? That's the whole Prime Directive deal, right? Now Starfleet and the Federation have effectively fallen or receded, if you want to be polite, and they don't have the resources to do that anymore. So now when it advantages people, in this case, the Emerald Chain, to go in and just say, okay, we want this shit, so we're just going to take it. We don't care if you don't know about aliens and warp drive and all this stuff. We're just going to go in there and fuck with it, right? All right. As a Star Trek fan and as somebody, when you as the audience generally identify with Starfleet and the Federation, you think, oh, that's terrible morally that they can't protect them anymore. But you could pose the argument, like, what gives the Federation the right to even protect the people in the first place? Now, I like to think that I would agree with that from a moral stance and would be in favor of it. But when you think about it, it's like, all right, so the Federation's position is we're protecting these people from being contacted, and they have a good moral argument against it. On the other hand, it's also sort of like, well, people are going around.
So you're basically saying they're trying to force other people to follow the Prime Directive when, because the Emerald Chain is, like Vance said, he was like, the Emerald Chain doesn't respect the Prime Directive, and they just come up to all these, pre-warp societies and make all these deals and stuff, and he was basically implying that we can't let that happen. But it's like, how is it him to tell another culture how they're going to contact another planet, basically?
And again, my morality would probably be all about, yes, let's do what we can because, especially in the case of, the Emerald Chain, which they seem like a bunch of assholes, right? But on the other hand, it is a little bit colonial, empire-y. I don't know. It's complicated. I don't mean to open a whole big old bag of worms, but it got me thinking, because I think we're so used to the idea of the Federation as this the hegemonic force, hegemony. Yeah, there we go. Hegemonic.
Sonic the hegemony.
Force for good in first of all, for good. We complicate that over time, a little bit in TNG, a little bit in TOS, a lot in Deep Space Nine, more recently even more so. You complicate the idea of whether the Federation is indeed good or not, or whatever. But now that we're dealing with a contracted Federation, then it makes it a little easier to ask these questions again, which is, if the Federation is reborn, what are the ideals that deserve to remain, and what ideals may have been problematic, even if they weren't seen as problematic? What ideals may have been problematic? I mean, it's the opportunity to rebuild. Do you rebuild it exactly the same? What point do you pick?
Right.
Because even the Federation itself evolved from the time of, of course, Archer to Kirk to Picard.
Well, we're still learning about what the Federation's motives are currently, because the Navarrians, Rin, and Osyraa, all of them, these different groups that have their own motivations, some of which are against each other, but they all agree that they think that the Federation is kind of shady. That's one thing, is Rin talking and saying, I'm going to send you to, as a kid, they send you to Federation camp or whatever. But they basically all of them are saying the Federation acts out of self-interest and they're deceptive and stuff like that. So there is this sort of ongoing thing where the vibe that they think that now, is the Federation honestly being shitty, or it's are we going to find something out about are we going to get disenchanted with the idea of the Federation?
Well, that's the brilliance, I think, of the.
Maybe everybody else is just shitty.
Well, that's right. So that's the brilliance of the question, because you could ask that same question. The question. You could ask that same question during Picard era TNG, right? And it's a different context, but the question would still apply. And by the way, you would have plenty of people, Lursa B'Etor, Klingons, Romulans, other people saying "Fuck you, Federation." You act like you're all nice, but you've got your thing going on, and you're trying to fuck with our thing.
So you don't think the Federation is necessarily any more shady now than it was? I mean, I think there'd be more motivation for it to be shady now, just because there's such scarcity.
Yeah, and that would be the test, and I think that would be that would be fundamentally the test of whether the Federation and Starfleet have really been maintained, even if in a smaller form, in what are their core philosophies and what are they doing, right? Now, they've trodden the line, right? They've trodden a very narrow line in that we are still at the point where we could believe either way.
Right.
We could either believe that the Federation is, I don't think, evil or anything like that, but you could say maybe they've fallen more on the side of self-interest and desperation, or they could have fallen on the side of not self-interest and desperation, but desperation, inability to do what they want. So they try their hardest. They're contracting for the purpose of maintaining their ideals, even if it's in an ever-shrinking environment.
Well, Admiral Vance from the start has been taking a very pragmatic sort of view of this whole dealing with the Federation thing. It's not so much about a mission statement and holding up these ideals. Like, for example, when he told Saru he was like, look, if the Discovery's in danger, you got to get out of there. And then when they were in that situation, Saru was like, well, one of the ideals of the Federation is to stop tyranny, or I don't know, whatever it is he said. And so that overrides
atrocity.
Yes, thank you. And so that overrides whatever the Admiral said. It was kind of like he kind of jujitsu'd that a little.
Well,
but like it seems like Saru, that's the old Federation, and Saru is sort of upholding these values, and it seems like Admiral Vance is constantly sort of the opinion that we can't afford to hold up these ideals anymore, and we just have to survive, basically.
And we'll see how Saru gets how they respond to Saru when he gets back.
Right.
But Saru states that, yes, we're following Starfleet protocol, which includes stopping atrocities if we come across them. It's sort of like a probable cause type of thing, right? We don't have to start that whole conversation. But the thing that will be interesting is if it creates conflict with Vance, because Saru is following 22nd century Starfleet protocols, and maybe that protocol's gone away. Maybe the protocols are different, right? That's again going to the test of what has changed, what has remained the same. What are the things that the Federation and Starfleet really want to focus on? And I will say, I think one piece of evidence thus far, anyway, for the idea that Vance may be feeling constrained, but inside his cute little heart in there, really wants to have the opportunity to do more to help, because he keeps sending Discovery and Saru on these missions. Mm-hmm. I mean, shit's working out, but I mean, they're disobeying orders and fucking shit up and causing all these problems. And he's still saying like, all right, you can go, come right back. But like, you can go. Like, he didn't have to let them go. Yeah. He could have just said no. So something is working in his mind that's saying, okay, I'm getting inspired by these obnoxious, 1,000-year-old people.
Well, do you think we're going to hear from this glasses man ever again? Was he a one-time thing?
No, they've got to bring him back. You don't get David Cronenberg to play probable Section 31 dude to spar with Georgiou without bringing him back. So
yeah, and so that might sort of offer some insight into what's going on in behind the scenes in that whole situation.
Yeah, because he's a shady character.
He is shady.
But Section 31, if that is what he is, has always been around, and so there's that shadiness.
Maybe it's like an updated Section 31. It's like Section 34 or something.
Well, 33 and a third.
I'm sorry. I'm just fooling.
It's weird that one third is a value. It's like 1/3, but when you write it out, it's like repeating numbers. Isn't that crazy? There's no such thing as a true third of something, or is there? I don't know. Numbers. But Osyraa, and Navarans and Book's father and Tarek's. I'm just reading random bits from my notes. Try to move on from that tangent I went off about numbers. See, Jesse, you were sorry about what you said, but I took that away, so now I have to be sorry about what I said because I just caused some major train wreck issues going on right now. I'm just kind of rambling. Maybe we should move on. Rin is under security protocol 49.09.
There he is. There's our boy Dan.
He's back. Hey, I'm back, baby.
You're right back up in there with your numbers.
So
give me some more of those numbers.
So when Osyraa was, she wasn't messing around.
There's a piece of work.
She was. She's like, I'll give you 5 minutes to decide to Saru and them. But then on the planet, she was like, I will burn 10 hecapates of forest every minute.
Yeah, when she was talking with her hollow projection
is that
down
what she said? I couldn't figure out what she was
it was hecapates with using photon torpedoes. And that's when Osyraa is carpet bombing the planet systematically, firing in a grid pattern for maximum damage, said Reese.
Yeah, Reese was all like, maximum damage.
For maximum damage.
Maximum.
The other great sort of line from that whole thing was when Detmer, what was she saying? Full manual control.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't convinced for. I don't like the idea of floating manual controls. I don't know. But that's not what I was getting at. Hecapates, I looked it up, Jesse, and the hecapates apparently is a Bajoran unit of land area. So why are in late 2375, Benjamin Sisko bought, this is from Memory Alpha, it's bought 12 hecapates of land south of the Georgiou River.
MTV raps.
In Kendra Province. This is DS9 episode Penumbra.
Yeah, Kendra Province. That's where you want to be when you're retiring.
And then, they added this quick. It says, in 3189, Osyraa threatened to destroy 10 hecapates of land in Quajian for every minute that Kaheem delayed handing over Cleveland Booker and Michael Burnham in the Discovery episode called The Sanctuary. So why is she using Bajoran land units? Why would she do that?
Maybe they're near Bajor.
But I mean, they don't mention, narratively speaking, like, we're only aware of what they tell us. There's nothing even implied that Bajor is nearby.
What's implied is that they're using a Bajoran term for land.
I think that is definitely an argument, but I think the more likely...
I'm agreeing with you, man.
No, but I think what's more likely is that they just didn't think about it too much.
I think they might be in the Bajoran sector.
What if we found out that they were in the Bajoran sector because of hecapates? Wouldn't that throwaway line is going to be?
They mentioned the Bajoran
secret.
exchange.
No.
Yeah. That was a few episodes back. Book goes. That's how Book got the information about the black box.
So maybe that's
Book got the information about the black box.
Maybe the Book's right. Take right around the right bad box. So maybe the fact that they use hecapates is some kind of secret into what happened to the burn.
Maybe they just, not everyone's into metric for land valuation.
Well, they should have.
So the Bajoran custom sort of took over.
Well, they should have used an Orion land unit then.
What do they use?
Bluebees.
Yeah, bet. Assholes.
Motherfuckers.
Orions use green bees,
Bunch of
and
pirates.
and Andorians use the blue bees.
Isn't it gross that Rin still has these like red markings where his antenna got cut off? Like they're still gory. They look gory still.
Yeah, it's gross.
Like you'd think it would heal over in some kind of way where it wouldn't be this red sort of open wound looking thing.
Maybe that's part of the healing process. Like when you put you put like maggots on it to eat the dead flesh away.
Put the maggots on the antenna and eat them all up.
Remember, kids, eat up all your maggots.
Well, how do we know how? We don't know. We know. We don't know.
We don't know.
Nobody knows.
When did Rin's antenna get cut off?
Recently, I get the impression.
Yeah, recently. So maybe it's still healing.
Within a few months.
I think okay, fine.
I don't know. I don't know about Andorian physiology.
I wasn't challenging you.
I don't know about Andorian physiology or Orion torture.
I wasn't challenging you.
It's okay. You can challenge.
I wasn't,
It's okay to challenge each other.
But I wasn't.
That's why you have people together, people in a group, you challenge each other.
I know it's okay to do things, but I'm just clarifying that I wasn't.
But in this case, you weren't.
When Book was all... When they got to the planet and they saw all those those locusts like to fuck. You can tell those locusts.
Wait, what? Did you see them fucking?
No, but there were so many of them. They fuck a lot.
That's how they work?
Well, I mean that's how everything works to an extent. But
do you think there's Rule 34 porn about those locusts yet? The Discovery locusts?
I can only imagine.
Let us know at feedback@itsgotstartrek.com. Oh yeah, they do lay eggs. Well, you still gotta fuck to lay eggs, or you gotta squirt something with something.
There's just so many of them. Anyways, they were cool. But when Book and Burnham were on there, and Book goes, "I never forget. Put your hands up." I thought he was gonna fuck her up for a minute. I was like, "What?" Like I thought he double crossed her. Did anyone else think that Book was double crossing Burnham for a second when he said,
"I did not think that."
Put your hands up.
Not until you just mentioned that.
Because her reaction was like, he's like, "I never forget." It's all sinister, like meaning like I didn't forget that first day when you attacked me.
Yeah, but like,
and then like she was like,
but he put his hands up.
But then he
didn't point a gun at her.
And then she was like, "Book?" And he was like, "Put your hands up." And she's like, "Book, what's going on? Why are you doing this? Why would you do this, Book?" And he's like, "Just put your fucking hands up." I thought he was gonna get her. But then
I really enjoy this. Dan, this is like live theater with Dan. He's doing a good job.
He should work with them when they do like their table reads.
Yeah.
Although your interpretations are somewhat different than
how it goes like this.
Goes like this.
And everyone knows actors love that. They love when you tell them how to read the lines.
Yeah. That'd be a funny job.
Say it exactly like this.
If I was a professional table reader and all I did was like criticize actors on their reading, and I'd read along.
No! You must do it like this.
Like, what show have you ever been in? None. So, but then I realized that he wasn't doing that, and nobody else even thought for a second that he was double-crossing her. And I didn't actually think, well, okay, I did.
You don't have to defend your silly viewpoints.
Fuck you, man.
I'm joking. I said you don't have to defend them.
This is not one of those Stamets moments where you're like, I was trying to be serious, but I came off really, smug. Like, you straight up says, like, you don't have to defend your shitty stupidity.
I don't recall saying any such thing.
But that's what you were saying.
I don't recall.
That's what you were saying.
I plead the fifth.
But like I was like, what? But then I found out that that's not what he was doing. So
it's all good.
But I didn't I wasn't gonna write home about it or nothing.
From Federation camp.
Yeah.
Federation right home. I was like, oh mom.
Federation summer camp.
All they have here is a bunch of fucking iced tea and fucking what else? Nachos.
Iced tea and nachos.
Man, nachos every day.
Salads.
Man.
For dinner, we have the salad, Taco Bell salad.
Did either of you guys like that elementary school cafeteria nachos? I hated those, but some people really loved them.
I did. I liked them.
I think it was the beans were all dry and gross.
I never ate the beans. All I liked was the chips.
I didn't even like
and the cheese.
The presence of the beans ruined the whole dish for me. I couldn't eat it because I would never
can buy
get
that,
it.
Yeah. No, the chips and the cheese were okay. They were okay.
I brought my lunch like after second grade. I just never went into the place where you got the food in the cafeteria. I never got any food from any cafeteria.
Yeah.
I never got food at the cafeteria in high school. Never once.
I feel like my mom would make me turkey sandwiches, but she'd keep the meat a little too long. And so like after a few weeks, I'd be like, oh, this meat's turning. She'd give me like turned meat. It was, but you know.
It was turned.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's upsetting.
Yeah, they weren't good lunch. They weren't very good.
Did you shit yourself at school?
I think you could have called child services on that shit.
Yeah, I should have. That was my out.
My mom serving me slightly old turkey.
Yeah. And then she put lettuce in it, and the lettuce got all soggy too.
You definitely could have called child services on that shit.
It's like lettuce and mustard and old turkey sandwich, and it's like all soggy and just like old and tasted off.
At least for this county, yeah.
All right, so Emerald Chain's running out of dilithium. We learn that Osyraa wants to get Rin back because he knows that.
They want to get Rin back because he knows that.
I do think that's a slightly weak premise, but I'll go with it.
Yeah,
it's like
right.
Maybe he already told them. I mean, he's out of your control. I mean, you're just going to expend all this energy getting him. But okay, whatever.
No, I agree because for the whole episode, I was like, why do they want him? Are they ever going to explain it? They're never going to explain it. And then it was almost like a throwaway at the end where he was just like, oh yeah, I know that they're low on dilithium. You know?
But I'm okay because I really...
All it takes is to tell one person and then suddenly, one person tells two, begets three, begets five.
And I love the character of Rin because, I mean, we've only seen a little bit of Rin, but... Andorians are really hard.
Yeah, Rin's cool.
They're really hard to play because Andorians have to be kind of like assholies. Like assholes. Andorians are sort of assholes.
I'm an asshole.
They're assholey, but they also have to be sympathetic and sort of charming, right? That's sort of their deal as founding members of the Federation. The Vulcans have their things going on. The Tellarites have their things going on. But with the Andorians are supposed to be, they're aggravating. They're supposed to be slightly aggravating, but also cool, and you want them on your side, even though they're annoying you. And I think Rin did a really good job with that, especially the scene where he's going in to try to talk to Saru. Ahead of their appointment, and Tilly is like, fuck you, man.
She laid down the law. That was awesome.
Which is extra. There's the meta aspect of that that's awesome is that Mary Wiseman, who plays Tilly, is, Rin is her husband in real life.
Whoa.
Yeah, Noah Averback Katz.
Whoa.
And he's on Twitter. He's liked some of our stuff on Twitter. He's nice.
That's crazy.
His Twitter feed is really awesome to follow. So do a search for him. So it's fun to see their interactions because they're actually married by all accounts. So anyway, he does that really cool scene with Saru where he's just sort of not respecting him at first. Then he tries better. He's all whiny at the end. Remember, what was that line that Tilly had when Rin is saying like, "Oh, I'm just as important as the cat." And she's like, "No, don't quit it with that sad Andorian routine."
Yeah, right. You're a freaking hero. That cat scene, there was a scene where, when they were on the ship and the cat jumped out.
That was great.
That was great.
It's like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
What sound is that?
Yeah, what is the sound it's making?
Yeah, so there was this, so when they had the cat.
How does he not know what a cat is? It's like, what the fuck year is it? Like they were a founding member of the Federation? Like, come on.
Maybe there's not a lot around anymore.
Oh, come on. Cats is eternal.
So at that, when he, there's always some kind of cat-like creature. I mean, you read sci-fi. They mix cats with some kind of badgers, or they find a cat with a snake. But there's always a cat somewhere. Or the cat,
don't need that fucking badgers.
Stinking badgers. But when Rin goes, what is that? Like a pet? And then because they're freaking out about a cat. But what was so cute, it was like then they get hit right after he said that, and there's a shot of Rin and Grudge cuddling.
Yeah,
and
he's all hugging Grudge.
And Grudge has his face all scrunched up against Rin, and it's all cute. Like Grudge is all being like, oh,
it helped make that scene for me, right?
Let's snuggle close. Because Grudge was doing that thing that cats
hear Grudge go like when they're flipping the ship around.
Yeah, you can hear him in the background do it. He's doing that thing where cats do where they like snuggle up their face into your shoulder, and I'll dig it in there, and it's all like it's like, oh, Grudge, you big thing, you're strong, you're a strong kitty.
That was a great scene, great acting all around this episode. I hope we see more of Rin. But speaking of that scene where he and Detmer go on their little mission that was suggested by Tilly. If you take the 1,000-foot view of the mission, it's pretty straightforward. Pretty bog standard sci-fi, get the fast little ship, fly back and forth, straight for the bat. Yeah, bog standard.
I don't know what that means.
It means standard.
It means it's inside your bailiwick.
Yeah, It means it's standard. It's an accentuating adjective.
It's exaggerating.
Bog standard.
Exaggerating.
Welcome to It's Got Bog Standards.
Exaggerating.
Every day, every week, we put out an episode where we discuss a local standard or two if you're on our Patreon feed. You can get bonus standards.
Bonus standard.
Dan doesn't think this riff I'm doing is nearly as funny as I do. As you can tell by this is how he reacts.
He clearly has no respect for it.
What were you saying? No, bog standard. Can you do it? Do it again. Do the bit again. It'll be do it again.
Because I know it's gonna happen. But I'll do it. This whole scene with Detmer and everybody, it was sort of a bog standard sci-fi. A bog standard. It was a bog standard sci-fi strafing the bad guy's ship, shooting them
like in Goldeneye,
and getting following your instincts. Well, yeah, because she did the Luke Skywalker thing where she was using the automatic controls and switched to the manual controls. This is as I said,
she went full manual control.
Bog standard.
Bog standard. Bog standard.
But what made it work was, first of all, I thought the special effects were fun and good.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, it was a fun thing doing passes over the ship.
Exciting. I thought it was exciting, especially you felt the motion somehow. The scene where I felt it the most was when she said, "It was like, are you okay? All right, we're gonna do it. We're gonna go around again." And she pulls back on her magic little wand or little Wii controllers.
He goes, bog standard.
I felt that when the TV did that, and I don't think that was just because of the snake leaf.
Not all this.
So, but the scene was elevated because Detmer it was just interesting to see her working through her emotions and she's had concerns all this season ever since the second episode about her flying skills and her instincts and all that. And so that culminated here.
I wouldn't trust that she went full manual control, but I don't like that it wasn't attached to anything.
I know that's a little.
It seems like it would be a bumpy ride, and so your shit would shake around.
That's our bias.
Yes,
because
I know. In the future, it's different.
We have a connected mass bias.
Connected mass bias,
and we would be. Yeah.
Whoa, that was some Star Wars talk, Jesse.
Yeah, it's creeping me out. But yeah, so we got to shed ourselves of the connected mass bias.
Like Linus shed his skin in the mess hall.
Yeah, I was going to go more for Osyra's ship, like Book ship we've seen do. And we see with the detached nacelles on the Discovery. Osyra's ship had a couple of extra things that were floating completely disconnected. Did you notice that? There were a couple other things going on. It wasn't all like connected all at once.
It was like two ships together or something.
Yeah, because it's the programmable matter. Book ship has done that a couple times where like a little extra thing will pop out and then pop back in and reconnect. So it makes for some interesting dynamic battles. But Rin being there, Detmer, Grudge, that together with very good direction by Jonathan Frakes. By the way, we haven't mentioned yet. This episode was directed by Jonathan Frakes. That elevated the scene to be more than it might have been in other hands and with other characters or writers.
What kind of ship was the Viridium? It was like a cruiser class or something?
I don't know. Jesse's in charge of that stuff.
Jesse.
It was, they said it was some kind of heavy cruiser.
It was heavy cruiser. Man, when a heavy cruiser class comes in, you are in trouble, man. I just think about, do you think in Warhammer 40,000 they have heavy cruisers that you can fly around, Jesse?
I really don't know about that futuristic Warhammer.
I don't know about it either, but I'm just imagining they must have, like, if they do have that, when that comes into play, it must really, like, you know, and like that must be curtains, basically. How do you take down a heavy cruiser class starship? You have to be like Rin and know all the secret spots to hit.
Yeah.
How he knew how to hit the weapons manifold.
But only after like 10 passes, he was like, "Oh yeah, there it is."
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was telling her the whole time. He kept saying like, "Oh, trust me, you're making it weaker." If it was a different situation, you might think he was just bullshitting her. Except he was on the ship. I mean, he's gonna get blown up or worse, captured by Osyraa if she fucks it up. So presumably he was trying to give her helpful advice. But yeah, action-y scene, but well executed, good, fun. I think the combination has been good, right? You know, some episodes are more like low key, like last week's episode, a little bit more character focused. Some episodes introduce a little bit of action, like this episode, but it's not overwhelming. It's not like the whole fucking time action, and it's at least closely related to what's going on in the plot. In this case, Detmer's scene went on for a while, but it made sense because we were interspersing it with scenes from the planet's surface, right? So all the stuff with Book and Kaihim and Burnham and all them.
It felt like there was weight and purpose to it, unlike and I brought this up before, the Rogue Squad, the Rogue Star.
Rogue One.
Was it it was the Star Wars story? Rogue One. I bring this up often and I always forget the name of the movie. But yeah, the Star Wars Rogue One, where there was near the end, there was this super mega space battle. And after a while, it was like, okay, I'm just looking at some graphics flying around. Like, there's no context really to what's going on other than you want the good guys to win. But you don't know why they're doing all this. It's like, why is all this crap happening? This is a good example, I thought, of like there was purpose to this action scene, you know, like they were doing something very specific. It wasn't just a bunch of eye candy of things flying around in circles, like showing all these pointless dogfights or anything. I thought it fit in with the plot pretty well. It did go on for a while, but it was pretty cool.
And it's an important moment for that character because she's overcoming some issues she has.
Right.
And you get to see from the ground
her issues.
I like the fact that you could see it from the ground.
Book is like, is that my ship?
Yeah, which was funny. And it connected all the stories together, right?
Yeah.
It was like this 3D planar connections.
Planar. It's awesome when you can see the space thing from the planet. Like when the space station blows up in the sky and you can see it on the planet and it's all big explosion. I like that when you can see them, you know, like you see
like
the ship.
Death Star.
It's like, yeah, you're looking at something in space, but somehow you can see it clear as day. I don't know.
So for everyone out there, it is the holiday season. Whatever holidays you may celebrate, if gifting is involved and you want to send a gift to Dan, you now have some clues as to what might be a good gift to send to Dan.
Wow, I didn't even catch those clues.
You can just you put it right out there, right? So if you want to send a gift to Dan, email us at feedback@itsgotStarTrek.com. I'll totally send you his personal address.
Yeah.
And then you can send him
cell phone number.
You can send him presents. And he likes it when you can see things blow up in space, but from the ground during the day.
Yeah, I like the idea of sort of like you're on the surface and you're seeing it blow up clear as day like it was right in front of you, but you know it's happening in the darkness of space. And so how can you sort of reconcile that dissonance, you know? Like see something that has
that dissonance.
If you're on the surface and everything looks bright around it, but you know if you were up on that thing, everything would be dark around it. How does that even work? You know what I mean? It's just...
There it is. As you can see, Dan
space.
is passionate about this, so something to consider.
So, yeah, Detmer, she's old school, right? That was a weird scene where she was saying she doesn't trust herself enough. What was she... I don't trust myself enough to have a machine adapt itself to me. Like, I need fail safes. Like, I didn't really understand.
I knew what they were trying to get at. It was a little clunky, though, because you're like, it's the future. Don't worry.
But she
don't worry about it.
Was she not trusting the tech, or was she just thinking that she didn't trust herself?
I think she didn't trust herself.
And so she thought the tech would, like, misread her because she's so chaotic or something?
That could be. I hadn't thought of that. I just thought they were just like, all right, let's do this. Let's make the point that let's have another indicator that she's got some issues going on.
That she needs everything in place. When she said, I need fail safes, I wasn't too clear on that. But I mean, whatever. I'm not like a...
And
she was just being hard on herself.
Yeah. And in this episode, she kind of got over that. So I guess the last little bit is, we haven't talked too much about what happened down on the planet with...
down on the planet.
With Book, Burnham, and Kahim. It was pretty bog standard stuff.
Oh my gosh!
If you ask me, but it was good.
You're doing it on purpose now.
It was I wasn't doing what on purpose.
Go ahead.
Roger. It was fairly predictable, I'd say.
Yeah. Right down
estranged brother, conflict, resolution.
Yeah, and right down to the moment where the one brother is like, "Fine, take me out right now. I'm giving myself to you. You want to take me out? Take me out." And then he can't do it, and that represents the moment of decision that for some reason you can't go back on. Book forced him into this decision. He made the decision that he can't kill his brother. That's how you know from here on out he'll never kill his brother, because that's how it works in these situations.
And even though he's got those awesome wooden laser guns,
those are awesome.
Or like
stock.
wooden little monster fighting guns.
Yeah, those are. I like the style. How those are styled.
I want to have one now.
But
like your hand all fits in there all nicely.
But like movies and stuff and books and stories, they're always all into this idea of like, oh well, you can't. You have to choose to go through the door. Like
except for Loki. Because this isn't, you're right, this is a trope, which is there's some arbitrary decision that once it's made, you can't go back.
Right, exactly.
But in the Marvel movies, they exploited that trope with Loki on multiple occasions where you think like, well, okay, now Loki's on the good guy's side. And then like in the last second, he's like, oh, he's Loki doing some crazy stuff.
Right.
But like I said, it's a bit of a bog standard plot line. But
I totally agree.
But well acted, well portrayed. I thought the visuals were great. The scenery, the location shooting, all the stuff they did was really cool. I did like the sexy little sea locust creature things.
Yeah, they were cool.
That was neat.
They're like empath plant, animal plant people or whatever. They're empaths. Both of them are empaths. And so I remember he referenced it briefly in the first or second episode or third or something. I don't know. But how his people aren't all empaths, like with the designs on their foreheads.
Only 1 out of 1,000 or something are born that way.
Him and his brother, or his brother by not my blood, but
brother by blood.
We don't know if their father or grandfather are that way too, but we do know that Kahim is basically following in the footsteps of his father and grandfather, and what's his name? Book is actually the one who's the rebellious one because he's not selling out. Well, their argument is they're not selling out to Osyraa. They're just trying to save the planet. But they're basically contracted with the mob, which doesn't work out well.
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting that both Kahim and Book have that empath ability. So I don't know.
And that's also an old story in and of itself. Right? The idea of reluctantly joining the mob, a family member, a brother, it was predictable. I think what saved it, and saving is not, I'm being overly critical, or I'm conveying, I'm seeming like I'm more critical than I was, because I think it worked because of what we know about the characters, how well the actors did. I thought the actor who played Kahim was really good. A really engaging character. His name was, I think it's Achi Hernandez. Did a really great job, interacted really, really well, those two characters. So it worked, but it was a pretty predictable kind of thing, which is why I guess we saved it for the end to talk about, because, there wasn't much to talk about. They beamed down, conflict.
It wasn't...
They had funny chanting to get rid of the...
Yeah, the individual components...
Please.
Well, my favorite part of the whole thing was Kahim's fucking house was great.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
And his whiskey looked nice, too. I just wanted to hang out there. And he was looking all like upset. He's just like, I just want to chill out and look out at these pretty woods outside and drink my whiskey. And now I got to deal with all this fucking
nice
nonsense.
Forest on that planet, yeah.
So what I didn't predict, though, is that awesome robe that Book sported to the bridge. And if you notice, both Book and Burnham were wearing this robe, but like Book wore it to the bridge. He wore this like what looked like a smoking jacket or a smoking robe or whatever you call it, a leisure robe. I don't know what you call them, but it was a pretty smooth outfit. But he wore it to the bridge. You'd think he would like, you know, I don't know. Maybe it was a dress. Maybe in his culture, that's a dress up robe or something. But
it's a formal robe.
A formal robe. Do such things exist?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, I'm sure they did.
They looked like really comfy robes. They look like comfy robes. So I don't know how formal they could be. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know what you're saying.
But you guys remember that? You know what I'm talking about with that robe, right? You know what I'm saying about that robe? They wore a robe.
I mean, it was nice, but if you ask me, I think it was a pretty bog standard robe. All right, so
is this your new thing?
Gray isn't talking to Osyraa anymore.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. You know what? I didn't. You know, I have it in my notes here, but I don't know what to think about that yet. I think I kind of want to let that storyline sit a little bit
because it could just be
next.
that like she's
comfortable now.
They are comfortable now.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, it could be that Osyraa is comfortable.
They don't. So the Osyraa will discover like that they don't need to have Gray like manifested and
I was thinking if that's where they were going with Osyra's situation, because we know from prior Trill history stuff that proper integration is an important thing, and so I don't know. We'll see where they go. I don't have much to comment on that story yet, other than to say it is intriguing. I'm curious what direction they plan to go with it. Clearly, part of it is to strengthen the relationship between Osyraa and Stamets.
Oblongatar.
All right, next, odds and ends. Odds and ends. Odds and ends.
The burn caused damage to subspace, which shifted the moon's orbit, causing tidal changes, which made the cute sea locusts eat their shit.
This is SETI Alpha 5!
Yep. And so
SETI Alpha 6 exploded.
So the planet, they had to give them transworms for locust repellent. But the locusts just keep coming back. So that locust repellent wasn't really a permanent solution.
No, but the implication is that they were being replenished by the emerald chain, and
it's a trick.
Yeah, but I'm saying
exactly,
but
it's
it
a gag.
Right, it's a gag.
It's a gag that you get somebody. It's like you get somebody addicted to something. Like you get somebody addicted to Ketracel White or something,
It's
and then they keep coming back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Locust repellent.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, totally. It's just it would have been nice. You know, it's. They should have looked a little bit more into that before, but I guess they didn't have.
Maybe
a lot
the Emerald
of
Chain was the one who busted up the moon in the first place to cause the problem. Who knows?
Well, it's supposedly the burn caused damage to subspace, which shifted the moon's orbit, causing tidal changes.
This is SETI Alpha 5!
Don't be a burn blamer, man.
Oh, man. Don't accuse me of that.
All right, next up, odds and ends. Odds and ends.
The burn has unusually intense radiation. It's highly unstable electromagnetic fields.
Not the burn, the nebula where the burn started.
It's in the Verubin Nebula.
Yeah, the Verubin Nebula.
The signal
sounds like a club I went down to in Miami Beach. I don't know.
Beach.
It's late.
Yeah.
Odds and ends.
Who's got an odd?
It's got odds.
Who's got a nook or cranny here?
I'm all out of my odds and ends.
I might be.
I think we mentioned everything that I cared to mention.
Black alert and execute. Yep, we talked about that.
Is that an odd or an end?
It's nothing.
I think it's getting close to the end. So
special hyperconductive material to interact with the. I'm really digging here. There's nothing interesting.
Dan is deep into his notes. So I think we can call it a night. Next episode should be interesting. I believe it's the first part of a two-parter. Is it the Terra Firma? Is that what it's called? Terra Firma Part 1?
Oh, Book said something clever to Kaim when he goes, "I never thought you'd dance at the end of their chain."
Emerald Chain.
The Emerald Chain. Yeah. But here you are.
Yeah, we didn't need the here you are part. The first part was sufficient to convey.
Yeah, but the Emerald Chain, they didn't actually say Emerald Chain. He just said dance at the end of their chain. They didn't even walk us through the joke, which is good. That shows respect to the audience.
Got it.
Because like another place would have been like they'd say dance at the end of their chain, and then another character would have gone, "You mean the Emerald Chain?" But they didn't do that.
Emerald Chain.
But here you are. That last part was important, Patrick.
That was okay. All right. It was write us in at feedback@itsgotstartrek.com and let us know whether the last thing that Dan said was important or not.
Oh no.
So the emerald chain, yeah, that part was important, but was it necessary? What was the next thing they said?
But here you are.
But here you are. So the debate is whether or not the "but here you are" line was important for the anecdote that Dan told, particularly in the context of us trying to close down the podcast.
I mean,
we've been talking for a long time.
You said odds and ends. I mean, what is truly important and not? Is anything important? No.
Fair point. Point, counterpoint. So feedback at itsgotstartrek.com. That's how you can get at us. Even better, try getting us on, what do you call it? That Twitter.
Twatter.
You know about this Twitter thing?
The Twatter.
Apparently it's gotten very popular. So on Twitter, you can get us at itsgotstartrek.com. Where else can they find us with that address, Dan?
At It's Got Star Trek. Oh, it's an Instagram.
Yeah, that's right. At Instagram. You can do it at Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're on every single podcast provider that you can imagine. And you can go to www.itsgotstartrek.com.
We're not on Spotify.
We are on Spotify.
Oh, shit.
We're on Spotify and I believe Pandora, but we're definitely on Spotify.
Hecapate City, man.
Amazon Music.
Hecapate City.
Yeah.
That's a hecapate.
Yeah. So you can find us wherever. You've already found us if you listen to this bit, particularly this end bit. The people who listen to the end of the episode automatically get entered into a drawing for like thousands of dollars just by listening to the end. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to identify yourself or write into us. If you don't hear from us, you didn't win. That's how that context works.
There was something about a 50-50 chance of surviving a transwarp tunnel the book was talking about.
Burnham was mentioning that, yeah. They didn't go into much detail. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll learn more about that.
Yeah.
They mentioned that for a reason, so, I guess transwarp tunnels are a little bit shady. But anyway, contact us, write in, interact. Interact, folks. Why not? What's it going to harm you? It's a strange time out there in the world. You might as well interact with some strange people you've never met and you just spent, about an hour and 40 minutes listening to. Mm-hmm. Why not do that? There's nothing to prevent you from doing that.
Nothing.
So use one of the things that we just mentioned. Or just go to www.itsgotstartrek.com.
Dater.
As I've mentioned before.
Dater.
One of the cool things you can do at our website is, in addition to having all the links and stuff that you might need, you can listen. What am I doing, Dan?
I don't know.
You can listen to podcast episodes sorted by series, right? So if you just want to, look at TOS episodes that we covered or just TNG or whatever, you can click a button and only see those episodes of the podcast.
A virtual button.
It's a filter. Right? It's pretty tight. It's a filter. And don't sleep on those TAS episodes. We've done a couple episodes on TAS and they're pretty awesome.
And we did a movie too.
And we did Star Trek 6. We'll do more of those too. Once we finish up with Discovery, we'll do some more movie stuff, right? Anyway, so we hope you have a wonderful week. That's going to close it down for us here. So thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
Sensors aren't showing any damage. Am I hitting this thing or what?
Trust me, you've weakened the shield. You just have to keep the pressure on. Go back and... What the hell is it? What's that noise it's making?
It's a cat.
What is that? Like a pet?